All right, here we are. It is Wednesday, February 1st at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's early here. It's early everywhere. We're gonna find out all about IBEX today. Now, here's the first thing that you can find out about IBEX. Okay, in Latin America, it's IBEX. Okay, so I found that out when they answer the phone over there, it is IBEX. But if you're in America here, we've been calling it IBEX. And I have the pleasure today to chat with Jose Lemus, and I'm sure I'll get a pronunciation correction on that. He is the CEO of IBEX, and he is an absolute baller. And they're doing great things over there. Okay, here's a little bit of his everyone's favorite spam-filled website, LinkedIn. Okay, and they are a payments company. Okay, and there's a lot to unpack here. We're going to talk about IBEX Pay. We're going to talk about IBEX Hub. We're going to talk about the OTC stuff. Okay, there's a lot to talk about with IBEX. And the first thing is, Jose, how are you today and where are you today?
Hi, Mike. Well, first of all, let me say thanks for having me. Very excited to be here with you, and I'm doing great. Very excited about everything that's going on in Lightning, but also very excited about the conversation we're going to have right now. And I am in beautiful Copenhagen at the moment.
All right. And that's why we're doing this so early in the morning, is because he's across the pond there. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to cover is some of the amazing usual suspects of the Bitcoin VC crowd that has either invested in IBEX's previous round and this one again. So let's just get all the excitement out and put that in the rearview mirror behind us. Okay. And that is the 1031 crowd. All right. That is Zonte Capital. All right. That is Stillmark. Okay. And that is Hivemind. So we have a party round here, a great cap table full of a bunch of Bitcoin VC favorites. So just a quick little shameless plug. Why are we doing this? Well, we're doing this because we do founder interviews and interviews with the companies that we're investing in. We source questions from our group, and we're able to get everyone to participate for smaller amounts through our Lightning Ventures Syndicate, right? So if you want to learn about investing in Bitcoin companies and participate, you should join our group. That's ltng.ventures. That's about as much of a shameless plug as I can do. Okay, so first things first, when did you start this company and why did you start this company?
Oh, the idea for this company was actually, everything was set in motion in 2017, back just before the bull round, towards the end of 2017. We started it because I always been fascinated with Bitcoin and the concept of Bitcoin. Could never really buy it or get it because I'm from Guatemala. So, for example, way back when in 2012, when I tried to wire money to Japan to empty GOX, my wires would not be accepted. They kept getting bounced. Then later on, when I was, 2013, I was like one of the first registered, I'm going to put it on quotes here, registered users for Coinbase. But they wouldn't onboard me because the only passport I have is Guatemalan, right? And so even though I wanted to, be a part of Bitcoin since very early, I was dumb enough that I didn't mind. But beyond that, it's just I couldn't get access to it. And so in 2017, when I finally managed to get some access, I wasn't living in Guatemala. I could route, payments through other like more international banks and stuff. I realized that if we want Bitcoin to succeed, the first thing we need is on-ramps, so easy ways to get in and out of Bitcoin, right? And we didn't have any in Guatemala or Central America at that point. And like some countries in Central America today, you still can't really get Bitcoin in an easy way. And so that was step one. Now, as we came along and this project evolved back in 2021, we had starting experimenting with Lightning, but then the news for El Salvador happened, and we very quickly pivoted, and that's when we really became this payments technology company that you talked about. So, we're 5 years in, or pretty much, but as a company, but the payments part is really 2 years in.
So what I have here, and I'm reading from our deal memo, is IBEX is a Bitcoin infrastructure as a service company that builds Lightning infrastructure for enterprise clients. It's focused on making Lightning technology scalable, secure, and reliable for businesses that are looking to use the Bitcoin network and integrate it into its operations and services. All right. Is that true or false?
That is completely 100% true. And let me explain a little bit here. Our premise is that just like, let's say, email or even cloud, right, servers, you're not, unless it's your core business, you're probably better off outsourcing Lightning infrastructures to somebody like IBEX, to us, or down the future. It's going to be that way because we're going to be able to deliver, better service, more reliable, more secure, with more functionality at equal or lesser price than you would be able to do it on your own. So to be clear here, right, we're not being designed to service, let's say, somebody that's doing 2 or 3 payments at a time in their mom and pop shop, right? We're being designed to service, those big institutions like banks, like exchanges, like wallets that are going to be what we expect is we're going to have to compete with, a transactional throughput model like Visa or MasterCard, where we're talking 40,000 transactions per second, 50,000 transactions per second, maybe, we hope even more, 400,000 transactions per second. But at that point, right, the whole conversation changes, because you can't just be running a node in your own self-server, hosted environment. You need institutional grade solutions that are designed to handle that amount of volume and are designed to withstand attacks. And so that's what we're doing.
So we're going to unpack all 3 of these businesses, all right, wrapped into IBEX, which is the IBEX Hub, the IBEX Pay, and then this OTC. And even where the bulk of the revenue is coming from right now might not be the big picture for what they foresee as the big revenue driver moving forward. So first things first here, if you like big names and logos, IBEX has already connected millions of users to the Lightning Network with existing clients that include Starbucks, Domino's, KFC, Subway, Wendy's, Pizza Hut. And this is all happening in El Salvador. So I want to get to the geography of where a lot of your transactions are, where you're focused on. I know it was a big Latin America focus, but you actually have, I think, the most retailers and merchants here in the U.S. Somehow, or there's a big U.S. Push. So do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is very interesting. So like you mentioned, there's basically 3 products, and 2 of them are kind of tied together, which is the IBEX Pay, which we're going to go into a little bit of depth here, and the IBEX Hub. Now, the interesting thing is, the first thing we realized when we were going into El Salvador, or rather when the El Salvador news happened, is that we realized that as much as, a positive PR thing it could be for Bitcoin, it could also be really bad if we didn't have the right tools, or we didn't give the customers, the people, the right experience to interface with Lightning. And, even though the rollout was not perfect, right, it was good enough. And so what we were focused on is you know, if we keep Bitcoin as just a pure peer-to-peer experience, or if that is our focus, we'd be missing out. Because honestly, if you go through your life, the majority of your transactions are not peer-to-peer. Your majority of transactions are person to business. So who do we need to get comfortable using this technology for mass adoption? Well, we need businesses, because, as much as sending, money to your friend is fun, at the end of the day, you want to spend that money. And the core challenge in El Salvador specifically was that, you see those big names, right? None of them are at a point, and especially in 2021, they weren't at a point where they could just take on Bitcoin into their balance sheet. So what did we do? We were the first merchant payment solution in Bitcoin that offered instant fiat convertibility. So they could just use Bitcoin basically like a credit card, right? So if I'm charging $10, I'm receiving $10 at the end of the day. Now, to build this merchant payment solution, we first had to build the IBEX Hub solution, which is our suite of APIs, right? So we built that, and we were our first IBEX Hub customer, so to speak.
So, all right, we're going to talk about competitors a little bit later, and we're going to talk about a little bit of the overlap. So that's down in El Salvador.
Yeah.
Where where Bitcoin is, of course, legal tender. Okay, so these Fortune 500 companies basically have to accept it. So that's a big grab.
I can tell you a funny story there.
Please.
So for the last Lightning conference in El Salvador, right? The one that happened in 2022. So a lot of the Bitcoiners and a lot of the conference was happening in the IHG hotels, right? Now, IHG didn't put in a Chivo payment solution, right? So during the conference, but they hired IBEX, but the government didn't know about this. But so during the conference, the government was like, okay, we're gonna go make, an example of these people and how strong we are and serious about making, Bitcoin legal tender. So a bunch of government officials showed up to verify that IHG could in fact receive payments. And because they were onboarded with IBEX Pay, they could like, yeah, absolutely, here, you can pay here. And so, they avoided a huge fine and bad PR because, they had IBEX Pay.
Well, yeah, especially at a Bitcoin conference, right?
Yeah, okay. Absolutely.
So the company's success is attributed to three key products, right? I've said it 5 times already on this. Okay, so that's the IBEX Hub. But listen, there's a lot here. IBEX is a very complicated business. There's a lot going on in there. Three key products. All right, the IBEX Hub, that's the flagship product. Okay, that's the infrastructure as a service solution, APIs integrating Lightning into the company's point of sale and apps. All right, everyone's excited about that, except for nobody really uses Bitcoin. But when they do, they will be ready. Okay, so now we have IBEX Pay. Okay, what is IBEX Pay?
Well, like I mentioned, IBEX Pay is really a merchant payment solution. So what happens is, as a business, you handle money and finances quite differently than you do as an individual. And back in 2021, there really wasn't like a ready-made solution out there that was more catered to, a business that wanted to accept Bitcoin payments, where, you have account segregations, you have, the ability to give employees the ability to charge, but you don't necessarily want those employees to also have access to sending out that Bitcoin, right? And so we developed this platform that we're right now selling as a software as a service model, right? Where you can just go online, register your company. We basically, if you're staying just in Bitcoin, we operate all over the world. There are certain jurisdictions like in El Salvador where we can actually do fiat conversion, right? And so now we're integrating into, e-commerce solutions. So you can do like a plug and play. So we're integrated into Shopify, WooCommerce, Equid, and other, and we're rolling out constantly more e-commerce platform integrations. And that's basically it, a very simple way for businesses to be able to start collecting payments in Bitcoin. The cool thing about this is that you input the amount you want to charge in your local currency. We do the automatic conversion, collect the Bitcoin for you, and then send it on to you.
Okay, so now we have the big news that a while ago wasn't able to be shared, and we can talk about it just from a high level sort of overview. But that is in the very first stages of an exciting partnership. Well, there's a number of pipeline of partnerships there besides this, but that is with Grupo Salinas. Which is, of course, Ricardo Salinas. I think he's 100 and something richest person in the world. I believe the third richest person maybe in Mexico, although that probably changes daily. I don't know how those rankings work. This is one of Latin America's largest conglomerates. This is an 18,000 or so employee company that handles nearly 50% of all remittances in Mexico. I hope I'm not saying too much there. I think that's all known stuff. This is a gradual rollout because when you have a conglomerate, I mean, they're making the microwaves, okay? They own the stadium, they own the newspaper, they own maybe an airline or two. I don't really know, but it's one of those type of deals. So this happens gradually in stages. And it's very exciting how many people this can touch as it rolls out. So before I say too much, and we have to edit a bunch of stuff, is there anything that you can say about this partnership? Maybe brands or where it starts, where it's going, anything that you can give some color on?
Yeah. Let me think about this a little bit. I think, if we go bird's eye view, let's do that, because that's going to be, I think, a lot easier to be able to just not go too deep into details, right, and potentially reveal something. So this is the deal we're very excited about. Like you said, it has the ability to connect a lot of people all at once into the Lightning Network. And the cool thing about this is because you're working with, in a structure where you have multiple businesses, right? All at once. And by all at once, I mean within a certain period of time, right? But that you will deliver the ability to do payments over Lightning, right? The cool thing about doing it this way is that, like you mentioned, if they have a supermarket, if they have an electronics shop, if they have an airline, if they have this, if they have a bank, if they have, by having this wallet that's owned by them, they already have also the ability to receive payments that way. So if, for example, you send a remittance to Mexico, that person that receives the remittance doesn't necessarily need to even go cash out. They can just go and spend at a store, which is super attractive to one of these organizations that is set up this way. Because they're able to, you receive a payment and you can let your customer know, well, there's an offer, there's there's a deal today. Here are some coupons for the produce, for example, in the app. And then they go and spend. So it's not about, they'll make money on the remittance. Let's say if we cut down the fees to 1%, right? But then the interesting part is that you're driving business to your other businesses where you're making margins of 20, 30, 50%.
So this is really cool because, a lot of companies that are Bitcoin companies, they have to onboard somebody to a wallet, right? If you're gonna earn Bitcoin playing games, okay, like Thunder games, you have to then withdraw. There's a process there to get somebody into a wallet. So this sort of white labeled wallet, this sort of custom built wallet for the Salinas group is just that. And they don't have the need to, okay, well, you're doing remittances or whatever you're doing. Now you have to download your wallet. This is the wallet. And then to have that network, that captive audience there that you can just push those deals to, just like you said, produce is on sale today, save 5% on this when you use it. It's a very powerful communications tool, and it makes sense why they don't want people in another app. They want it in that app. So, okay.
What's cooler here, actually, Mike, is that they don't even need to build, let's say, a brand new wallet. It's that they can grab an app they already have, which is actually what's going to happen, right? They already have apps, and they're just going to plug in Lightning functionality into that app, which already has users, which already has this kind of like built-in customer base and demand. And then you start to notify, like, listen, now you can do this. This is a new extra functionality. And we're very excited about this opportunity because we do think this is the proper way. So imagine, let's take it out of Mexico, right? And let's go someplace. And I'm gonna pick here an example that I know for sure is not gonna happen in the near term, but say this would be like, let's say, who's a huge conglomerate? Hyundai in South Korea, right? Like imagine, they have this huge apps that already has like 80% of the population of South Korea. And you give Lightning in there, and now all payments can happen through Lightning, even internal settlement payments, which is a huge boon because, your operation just becomes that much more efficient. Because at the end of the day, the value proposition of Lightning to us really is that it's a hyper-efficient global settlement network. So the moment you plug Lightning functionality into, your apps or services, not only are you, creating this great experience for your customers in terms of, the functionality that they're going to have in that ecosystem, but because Lightning is open, it's now global as well. So anything anybody other does, it's going to impact you.
This is really cool because this is finally the realization of what we've been all saying as Bitcoiners for years, for the remittance market. Everyone was talking about remittances, and now it's finally happening. And this is right on trend with some of our other beloved portfolio darlings, right? Like the striking coin corner. Or things that are happening all over the world. That's essentially you're on the tip of the spear for those things right now. They're going to open up that IBEX app. They're going to see their local currency. Okay, they have no idea that this happened at such a small percentage of what it would normally cost, and with speed that is just mind-blowing, worlds above everything else that they're used to. It's happening over Lightning. Okay. And, it's cool that all these companies, and you guys aren't really fighting with each other because, Visa's, 350 billion, and all of these other companies that are out there that are specializing in remittances. It's such a big pie. And and it's really cool that you're doing that. Okay, so how does IBEX generate revenue? Okay, it's a simple business model, and it's processing fees, although maybe they're considering pivoting to a monthly fee model at some point in time, but these are the processing fees. And is that where the majority of the money is? I know we didn't get into the OTC side of it, and maybe now is a good time to do that. But do you want to talk a
Yeah,
little bit about the revenue?
absolutely. Well, right now, most of our revenue does in fact come from OTC. So as you mentioned, this is we take a small fee or a small percentage of the volume we transact. So because it's a small part, we need to get really up there in volume for it to become a significant portion of revenue. Now in the OTC, because we just have so much history there, right? Right now we're able to generate a significant amount of revenue, but the interesting part for us is the accelerated growth that we're seeing in our technology business. So if you look at our graphs, they're basically exponential curves, right? And we don't see them slowing down anytime soon, which, it's on par with everything we've seen in the space, like since Bitcoin was born, but also now we see that also with Lightning at large. So the Lightning network is growing at an exponential rate. And oddly enough, Lightning, according to a study that Lightning Labs just put out, is by and large disassociated from, the broader crypto and Bitcoin market. So it has nothing to do with the price. So even though, let's say, the last year, Bitcoin crashed significantly, Lightning companies like ours saw increased adoption and significantly increased adoption.
So if you're a fan of El Salvador, IBEX was responsible for and had tested El Salvador's rollout of that Chivo. This is correct, right?
This is correct. The interesting thing there, Mike, was that we were the only ones that were able to move fast enough because we basically got tapped on the shoulder. We weren't even thinking about offering services to Chivo. But a week and a half before the rollout, we basically got tapped on the shoulder because, they needed to have Lightning, and we were the ones that were able to execute in that time frame.
Okay. So without getting into actual numbers, right? This is a 99% uptime for IBEX Hub. And we have a quarterly compound growth rate of 80%. So he ain't joking around when he says that it looks beautiful on a chart. And it definitely does. Okay. And we have 27 unique countries with IBEX Pay. I'm not sure if that number has changed. 27 unique countries. That is beautiful. And let's get into the competitors. Now, everyone likes to compare with OpenNode. But I think you guys are actually working on some sort of like kind of integration maybe, or in talks about maybe getting together on something. So everyone loves to compare you guys to OpenNode. I have that question here. I just wanted to see if you could address that.
Yeah. OpenNode was basically our direct comp all throughout, let's say, last year and a little bit before. Unfortunately, this is no secret. OpenNode ran into some issues recently, which honestly we're very, very sad about. I know they have new leadership at the helm. We've already talked with the new CEO. He's a great guy. We fully expect them to turn it around because, as you mentioned, this is not about Lightning companies. fighting and bickering amongst each other. We got bigger fish to fry, right? We're going after payments. And to your point, payments, global payments is a $2 trillion industry. That's in revenue. Like all of Lightning, we've got so much growing up to do, right? So it's not going to do us any good to start fighting. And in fact, you mentioned Coin Corner. I know Danny very well over at Coin Corner. Great guy. We actually shared a panel in Edinburgh. And so one of the things we're working on with him and a couple of other, quote unquote competitors is starting to develop certain standards for, companies like ours that are trying to service that more institutional market. So I think a more direct comp right now would be River Financial, who, I've also spoken with the CEO, and what kind of open standards. So this is interesting, right? Taking a page from computers and computers companies, they have to come together in terms of ports, right? Like USB-A, USB-C, and everything like that. There's they all come together. It's called the IE, but basically it's all of these companies have a board in this organization where they define what the next input-output port is going to look like and how it's going to function and how it's going to transmit information, because we need that. Because it's better for everybody if we all talk the same language, right? And to that point, and a small point that you made before, one of the things we're working on is what we're calling Lightning Fiat accounts. So these are accounts that we already have live, where the money is kept in fiat. So in whatever denomination you need, so dollars, pounds, francs, whatever it may be, while it's in the account. But whenever you come in and out, you go over Lightning, right? And so this is a really cool functionality, but because it's going to enable what you said, it's that transparency where, you don't necessarily, or the average person, we're Bitcoiners and we love Bitcoin and we want Bitcoin to win, right? But for the average consumer, it doesn't matter. What they want is, I just want to see my money somewhere, right? And I want to be able to spend it. And this is what that's going to enable. Because, the standard we're developing is, how do we send metadata on each Lightning transaction where we specify, like, this is supposed to be, 10 pounds and at this purchase price, right? Or at this sale price. And the other party can then take in that info and match it. So we create that seamless customer experience.
Okay. You caught me just as I was making a note on something. So, okay. So this is the trend. This is the beautiful part about the Bitcoin companies that are out there, right? These are they're finance companies, they're infrastructure companies. Okay. It's the David and Goliath story, but it's many different Davids. There are many different Davids, okay? There, you have Pouch in the Philippines, you have Coin Corner, you have IBEX, you have Strike, you have BitNob. All of them are going to take down the Goliath, okay? And they're all going to do a great job and build a great, strong business along the way. Okay, so as far as the Osmo wallet goes, what's your relationship with them? How did that go? I know you have it listed as a case study here. How is that?
Yeah. So Osmo Wallet is the first Bitcoin wallet launched in Guatemala. So by Guatemalans, for Guatemalans, and really for Central Americans, for the whole region. But we're starting off in Guatemala. Now, what's really interesting with Osmo is that, the founder has background in the remittance market. And so what's really interesting for him is that or for Osmo is that they're kind of buying into the thesis that, Lightning has a good shot at replacing traditional payment systems as that remittance channel. And they want to get ahead of the curve. So they started with, their wallet. Right now they're putting in payment systems in Guatemala as well. And we're very excited because, like I said, the founder having experience in that remittance market, the whole idea is that we're going to be able to leverage that knowledge, or he's going to be able to leverage that knowledge to start those remittance channels between like the US and Guatemala. And by the way, Guatemala is the second largest remittance market in Latin America, and I'm talking specifically from US to Latin America. The first one is Mexico, the second one is Guatemala. And so having that ability to giving the Guatemalans places to spend, places to cash out, and the application where they can manage all of it seamlessly, easily, at a low volume, right? That is what I believe is the game changer. And we shouldn't forget about this because everybody talks, about payments and low volume and everything, but I don't think we really understand how important it is. So think of it this way. We're living in a payments paradigm, right? Where we have a lower bound threshold or limit about how low the value transfers we do are able to get done. And that value is around $1. Like we can quibble here. No, in Philippines, it's 70 cents. What? Let's say $1, right? But we really can't push payments and money transmission globally lower than that. But with Lightning now we can. So to me, the biggest value proposition is not about paying for a cup of coffee a different way. No, this is about, all of the payments that today are not possible and the commercial opportunities that those payments are going to open up. Like what's going to happen when you can feasibly be paying fractions of a cent every second for a service or a product, where machines are going to be able to do micro or nano payments, even lower than that, right, between each other for, very small amounts of value. So this is going to open a notion of new commercial opportunities.
Okay, I also want to correct something I said earlier about 18,000 employees for the Salinas group. It's way higher. I think it's closer to 100. That's my fault there. Okay, so one more note on the competitor. Galloway is in this sort of, there's some overlap there. How do they differ from what you're doing? And do you get together on them? Do you have any kind of relationship with them?
Yeah, well, we've spoken with Nicholas multiple times. That's Nicholas Petray, that's the CEO of Galloway. We've been there from the start. We were both some of the first companies when the whole El Salvador project got started. I believe they're going more, or at least from what I recall, they were going more towards the community banking area, right? Where they want to be able to enable people to build their own, local economies and banks through Lightning. Like you said, there's a ton of overlap, right? Where we can see each other. But again, at the end of the day, I think for me, it's about those niches, right? Because they do become important when you start making distinctions, like who you're trying to service. And so that's one of the things that I think, sets us a little bit apart is we're being built from the ground up as this enterprise solution. So everything we do and all of our roadmap and plans are geared towards ensuring that we are able to service those clients. Like, for example, let's say Walmart decides to accept Lightning payments. and have their own solution built in, right?
Let me pause you right there. If Walmart decides to accept Bitcoin, I'm sure they're just going to do that with a simple phone app, right? They're just gonna have everybody at the checkout counter with their own phone. No, I'm just joking with you. Like as a small business, right? Like they need these type of integrations. Sorry.
Yeah, they need the more like robust professional, because Walmart does a couple thousand transactions per second. You're not, and to them, that's not their core business. Their core business is not doing payments. Their core business is, selling products to their customers, right? In the most efficient way possible. So we are, going to be able to provide that service for them. To your point, integrate, native payments into all of their apps, potentially even build reward systems on Lightning, on Bitcoin natively. And that's what we enable for somebody like Walmart in this instance.
So look, they're not fighting with each other. They list all these competitors in a constructive way. Okay. There's nothing hidden there. Everyone is together. I just so the Salinas deal and integration is got many phases and it's very early, but they are already the #1 IBEX hub client. Okay. In this just getting going. Okay. The drip out of the faucet, they are #1.
And by the way,
sorry,
just to clarify, this is a closed beta that we're in right now. Sorry, I butchered that pronunciation. I apologize to everybody that in the English speaking world, but we're in the closed phase of it. So this is not a general rollout. This is just, like you mentioned, a very small droplet, right? Which, as we move into, an open beta phase and then an official launch, we expect to get progressively bigger and bigger.
So, Taurus, is it Taurus?
Taurus.
Okay, I'm a Taurus too, born in May. That is the #2 IBEX hub client. It was recently acquired, but that is a Mexican exchange that's had much success with IBEX, and then followed by Osmo. Okay, and they're on track for SOC 2 compliance, all these kind of fancy things too. So there's a lot of other signed contracts that we're not going to talk about here that will be rolling out from Q1 to Q3. Not going to name names here on that one. But, finally, look, this is a tough question, but how does the world or this space look in 10 to 20 years, and how will IBEX fit in? That's a very good question, but I didn't mean to surprise you with that one, but
no, great question. And so obviously we're going to assume that Lightning was successful and Bitcoin was successful and IBEX was successful, right? How does this look, right? So taking that premise, in 10 to 20 years time, how this looks is we are able to fully transition from the traditional payments rails into new technology. This is going to happen. And I think, a lot of people don't see a problem just because they don't know the industry. So payments is a very esoteric field, basically, right? And nobody thinks too much about it. But just to give you a quick background, all payments and global payments, right, specifically, run on technology that's over 70, 80 years old by now. So we're going back to telex, like 1950s time, when wires, they're called wires because they literally went over a wire, right? It's as simple as that. And we're still running on that technology, Like we patched it, I kind of improved it, whatever. But the biggest problem is data handling. So why everything takes so long and why you can't go lower than, let's say, $1 for a payment right now is because it's a bunch of databases trying to talk to each other, right? It's all about database coordination. And the issue there is that when you have so many databases all over the world, all trying to talk to each other, right? It's very inefficient. And it's very inefficient because, information can get lost in translation, information can get corrupted, digitation errors, all kinds of shit can go wrong. Sorry about that. But all kinds of stuff can go wrong. And then it gets slow and it gets expensive. Because if, let's say, you're a bank, Mike, and I'm a bank operating in Guatemala, you're in the US, and I say, Mike, listen, Steve is going to come by, please give him $2,000. You're going to say, okay, sure, but send me the money. And I'm like, it's on its way, right? But then I call you and say, listen, I made a mistake. It's not Steve, it's Jeff. What are you going to say? Like, well, I already gave the money to Steve, right? So those are the issues that you kind of have to slow everything down to actually, coordinate. Okay, are you sure this is the guy? Yeah, this is the guy, and everything moves. And then eventually a ship moves money. But that is why it's so inefficient. But what do we have with Bitcoin? What do we have with Lightning? Well, we have for the first time ever, a truly global database for financial transactions where everything can get settled in as close to real time as possible. And so in this new world, what I see is not only money, but all financial transactions. This means titles, this means securities, this means anything, any asset can get settled. Anything that can get settled is getting settled on Lightning and on Bitcoin. Everything is happening 100 times as fast as today. Computers and let's call them computers because IoT will explode because finally you got a payments mechanism for IoT. The value of the services and products you consume the cost is going to continue to decrease because as this gets adopted, we find ourselves in a situation where we can actually do micropayments, which has been a huge challenge to date for all services delivered over the net. So, for example, we come up with an efficient workarounds, subscription models, ad revenue models, prepayment models. They all suck. They're bad because the ideal situation is when we're able to give value for value in real time, which is what we're going to enable. And so we are going to be in a world where you only subscribe to those services you actually need to subscribe to or want to subscribe to. Think of the old newsstand model, right? Where you had magazines that you subscribed to, but then you had a bunch of magazines you were just one-offing time to time. But now it's not one-offing a magazine, it's one-offing an article. It's one-offing a song. It's one-offing a video. Ad revenue model is going to change dramatically. If at all. I don't know that it survives, which is a good thing because we're all able to pay for what we consume, which we can't do right now.
Okay, so one more thing, and then we're gonna go over the team, and then we're gonna wrap it up. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up with the team slide here, and okay. I'm showing approximately 30 is the head count.
Yeah,
and they're located all over the world, or at least in Latin America, Europe, US. You got people everywhere, right?
That is correct. Those are the main jurisdictions where we have people.
Okay. And as far as anything that's going to be happening in the US, or a big push, or where are you live now? I think there's some places in Miami, I think near
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. In the US, we continue to offer, our IBEX Pay customers. We are in talks with the first IBEX Hub potential customers. So a couple of payment systems integrators, so POS systems, you should be seeing by the end of this year, POSs with native Lightning integrations into them, which we're very excited about. And one of these payment systems actually is, in that remittance market sweet spot, which is the bodegas. So they do mainly POSs for bodegas in the US. And, very excited about that.
All right, coming to your local New York City corner store bodega. Okay.
I will have to mention here, disclaimer, New York City is unworkable.
Okay, of course it is.
Because bit license,
So okay, so finally, without getting into too much of it, the super app. Okay, the super apps of these countries where you open it up and you can get your food, your car, your deliveries, your this, your that. Those type of partnerships on the hush hush right now, I would expect to see from IBEX this year. Okay, are those super apps and those integrations. So without naming names, those are coming down the line. I think that's it. Jose, thanks for hanging out on this Wednesday morning. Well, for you, you're in Copenhagen, so it's a little later. I love those suspenders. That's
well, thank you very much.
That's a good look. Is there anything else that you want to say? Where are you going to be? Travel schedule? What conferences are you going to be excited about? Is there anything on your radar for 2023?
I have to plug Miami 2023. That I think is, the premier to this date Bitcoin conference. We're doing some very interesting activations with BTC Media. We have a great relationship with them. They're great guys, love everything that they do, what they stand for. And so very much looking forward to it. I think it's going to be one of those conferences that might still be flying under a lot of people's radars as big as they are, right? I think if you go to Miami 2023 this year, you're going to get a glimpse of the future. So I encourage everybody listening, if they can afford it, if they can make time to go to that conference, to please go, because it's where you're really going to see the future.
All right, you're going to see the future, and you're going to see 35,000 people, and you'll see Jose. You'll probably see me, and we're all going to have a good time. All right, so that's it. Thank you very much for hanging out, and check out poweredbyibex.io to do a bit of a dive there. Maybe you have a business, maybe you want to reach out and see what they can do for you. Thanks, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you very much. Bye.